Hey there, welcome back to the table. Okay, so I finished all the characters, and I have their information there. The one thing I will say is that these sheets that they provide you are really large. And so they're taking up a lot of my table space, and I may want to consolidate these just so I can get more room. You can see I got the first mission set up, and we'll get to that in a second. But this is a tiny mission, and look, it took up all the space that I have available. I could maybe go more this way, but left to right, it filled everything up, and I'd have to get more creative. I do have more table space, but you can see on the right, look at all these cards I have set up to help with the game. And then over on the left, I have all the tiles and even more cards. I mean, it's insanity. And I know I opened the first video saying this was an insane game in a good way. This is insanity in a bad way. It took me, I kid you not, 90 minutes to set this up for the first game. Now, it'll be a lot quicker going forward because one of the reasons is these standees, I had to punch them out, and the punch boards are not organized. So you have to look at these little tiny numbers on here and then line it up with the numbers that are in the bestiary book to figure out which standees go with which, issue. And then also the tiles, they're just so numerous. The tiles, it's a Gloomhaven problem. We had this problem when we played Gloomhaven. I never did a video series of that game, but I did play the full campaign actually several times. And the issue with Gloomhaven is there's so many pieces that it actually makes it more cumbersome to set up. And this game most definitely suffers from that problem. Again, it's a labor of love. The guy put so much into this game. It has everything. He's thought of everything. But because he thought of everything, it really puts the weight on everything you try to do. Even the most simple of missions like this one, it was 90 minutes to set up. And again, I'm going to reiterate, once you have your pieces organized and you've played this game, and you know how to, sort your pieces, there's no way this would take 90 minutes to set up. In fact, having all the bandit tokens all in one group, because these are considered a bandit class of, in the bestiary, they're the bandit page of monsters. You can even see here, it is called the Bandits. And so you can see the bandits have their own, thing, and then there's the rat folk bandit, there's the goblin bandit, there's a whole bunch of bandits in this. And they're all considered to be, in this bandit group. There's even this bandit boss. And I'm going to take it from off camera here. You can see I have there's that bandit sorcerer. This is the bandit boss. This is, I don't even remember which one. I think that's the dwarf bandit. And then we got some, I don't remember which one that one was. This is the rat folk one. So you can see I got them all sorted now, right? So if I keep a baggie and put a label on it that says, bandit, and I keep all these together, that's going to be super easy for me to pull out of the box, and they're already sorted. And so I'm going to show you something here, and I got quite a messy room right now, but I'm going to take you off to the side here. I have a whole box of stuff over here. See all this? Those are all the standees that I haven't sorted yet. So I got to go through and find, what is this? This is the number, 68. That has the number 68 on it. I have no idea what group 68's in. So I'd have to go through the bestiary book here and make 68. And so this is how much more work I have yet to do. But I had to go through all these to find the bandit ones. And that was easily 30 to 35 minutes of the 90 I just reported. Easily. And once you have these sorted, then it's not so bad. And trust me, when you looked at the punch boards, they were not sorted on the punch board. They really, really weren't. It did not help at all. Now, this is the bestiary book. So I started at the beginning. I had a situation where it was too noisy to record. And so this Creatures of the Night, it shows right here all the different numbers that go into this class of creatures. So I have my little toolbox here. And right there, those are all the creatures of the night. I've already found them all, and they're sorted. Now, there might be a few more, because what it doesn't tell you, like it tells you 43 is in creatures of the night, and I can see over here that 43 is the werewolf. There are 2 werewolves in here. It doesn't tell you how many there are. So you could go through this and you say, okay, I found 43. That means I found them all. And then you realize as you're going through, you find another werewolf and you're like, hey, wasn't that 43? And then next thing you know, there's 2 werewolves. And it doesn't tell you the count is what I'm trying to get at. And so just because you found one of each number doesn't mean you found them all. And I'm pretty sure that as I go through these and start to, sort them and categorize them, that we're going to be good. Now, the other thing about this is that if you go back to the beginning here, the bandits are page 32. So we go to 32. So this is the bandits page. And you can see I did do the same thing. And then there's one large, that's what this is, extra large creature, large. There's one, it has a number 3 on it. And there was 2 small creatures, 15 and 23. And every single one of these has a number. So you can see that the 3 is an ogre bandit. So the large creature is an ogre bandit. And you can see that this warhound here, which is a dog, that's going to be, that's 15. Right, so that's the 15. And so you can see that's one of the small creatures. And so forth. So it's really easy to sort them out. And it's also really nice because it tells you, like, these are the elite creatures. And then those are the champions, because they got the red and so forth. So once you sort all that out, then you're good, right? But like I said, that was part of the 90 minutes for me. Now, the other part of the 90 minutes was going through these tiles and organizing them, which again, easily another 20 minutes. So if you had the 35 minutes of sorting through the standees and then another 20 minutes of going through the tiles, which are, these things, there you go. There's 55 minutes of the 90 minutes already accounted for. Once you get them sorted, you don't have to do that again. That's all I'm trying to say. So please don't overreact to me telling you it took 90 minutes. It really did take 90 minutes, but I think a lot of that is one-time cost. Okay, now these cards that I showed you here are from the bestiary deck. You do not get that with the game. You have to pay extra for this. It's an add-on. I find them to be extremely helpful, although that bestiary book is also quite well done. But I think it's nicer to have the cards. But the bestiary book does have everything you need. You do not need these extra cards. It is just a nice to have. Okay, I don't think there was anything that we needed to go over in regards to, because I know I finished the characters while you were gone. I never found a name for my paladin. Nobody suggested the name for the rogue. So those are both nameless right now. They're just going to be called paladin rogue, I guess, for now, which I'm fine with. Another thing I wanted to point out is that there is a, for the dungeon lord, they have this stand, that he can use to cover up all of his cards so he can work behind the stand and the other players can't see him. But there's an amazing summary of all the rules on the stand. So I have it up for me. It's super awesome. Now, if you don't want to use that, you also have this, which we talked about. These are summaries of rules as well. But remember, the dark player with the black is for when there's an actual human controlling the dark player, and we're not doing solo heroes. We're not playing the basic game. So all of these are out. I accidentally shuffled them back in. But, anytime you're doing something with magic, you got the magic card. Here's a shooting card. I mean, these cards have the same rules. In fact, these red things we might need, because I don't think those are on the sheet. But, what actions are available on our turn? Is that on the sheet? I'm looking. Yes, it is. And then, of course, setup is also on the... So everything's on the screen, except for maybe what the AI Dark Lord does. And in fact, it even says what the AI Dark Lord does in some cases on the screen. So the screen is awesome. And if you can put that in front of you, I know the words are small. You know, you have to look closely to see what it says, but a very, very awesome summary of the rules. There's an index in the book. I've used the index quite a few times. My only complaint about the rulebook index, first of all, it's very thorough. So, for example, I wanted to look up furniture because I was trying to look up a rule for furniture and how that works. And it gave me, I kid you not, there was at least a dozen pages where furniture was in the index. And he literally included every single time the word furniture was used, even if it was just in passing. Like that page does not help me to learn how furniture works rules-wise. It was just mentioned. And so that's what an index is supposed to do, I guess. But I really, really wanted to know, okay, out of these 12 pages you're asking me to go back to, which one actually tells me the rules that are around furniture? And it was only like 2 or 3 of those 12 references. And you had to go to all these bogus references before you found the one you wanted. I know that's a first world problem, but, you know, and I would rather have an index that's over tells you where everywhere it's mentioned than instead of under. But in this case, it backfired for me. Okay, so let's get started. I promised that this was going to be a playthrough, and it is. You can see I already have a mission set up, but before we do this mission, the game technically starts with the scenario book, and I'm going to find some room here on my table. This thing is a huge table hog. I don't know how most people are going to find room for this, but so we start here on page 1 or page 4, and it tells you some background, and it's basically saying that the enemy for this campaign is right there, and I think I mentioned that before, but everything's going to originate from that location where my finger's pointing on the map. And then it tells us that we are starting at a tavern in Varkesh, which I'm going to put the camera down because I know I wobble a lot when I'm holding it. Varkesh or Vernick. Sorry, it's Vernick. And I'm going to point with my pen. So we're in that city at the start of the game. Okay, the first mission is right where I have the player marker. So see where that player marker is? So technically we start in Vernick, and then we would move out into the countryside to do our first mission. Okay, that's technically what we're doing on the first turn. So we're starting on week 1. There is no calendar in this game. The first 12 weeks of a year are winter, and then I don't remember how many weeks in a year there are. I don't think they went with 52. I think it's some, because it's some different world. First 12 weeks are winter, and there might be 52 because 12 times 4 is 48. Anyways, I'll look it up later. It's not that important. The actual thing I was going to say is that this whole winter versus non-winter thing is one of the dumbest rules ever. I mean, I know that they did it for role-playing purposes and it's thorough, but in all honest to goodness, just throw that rule out the window. I mean, it barely impacts anything in the game. And why would people not dress appropriately if they're going north during the winter? And why is it that winter only harms you, but it doesn't harm the creatures that are there? I have so many thematic questions that just, makes me angry about the whole winter thing. But because I'm doing a playthrough, I'm trying to show everybody the rules, so I don't want to exclude it because then I'll have some nerd tell me, well, you forgot about winter. Fine, we're going to do winter. And I'm starting week 1. I did come across a guy, Lonesome Gamer, who did a playthrough of this already. I don't remember how far he got, but it looks like he has quite a few videos. He definitely did this mission, for example. Lonesome Gamer, his videos, I really admire him because he does his videos like the way I do. He just plays, and he doesn't have fancy editing and all that stuff. I subscribe to him, in fact, and so I think he makes, I like what he does. I don't like one-stop co-op shop all the time because they're too polished. It's too cute. And sometimes it's too scripted the way they play. I really believe they script what happens in the game, Whereas Lonesome Gamer, it was very obvious that he was not rolling well, he was not doing well, he wasn't making the best decisions. I like that, because that's what we do when we're playing too. I don't make the best decisions either. And so I really admire that, and he looked like he was just a guy who likes the game like I do. So I was able to relate to that. But anyways, what I'm going to do that he didn't do is I'm starting on week 1. I believe he started on week 12 when winter was over. Winter only impacts us if we're way up north. Like I said, we're way down here in the corner, so I don't care. Now, when you're playing the campaign game, you get to do one move and then one action. And every time you move into a new territory, and I'll explain what that means in a second, you have to roll to see if you draw an event card. So events may or may not happen. Every time you go into a city, an event may or may not happen. And there's multiple types of cities. I don't have it all down, like which one's a city versus a castle versus a whatever, but they have different pictures on them, and it's pretty obvious when you look at it. So in order to track the calendar, I'm using a token that was not meant for this, but you can see here, I have a little hourglass token, and it's on the 1. So this is the Dark Lord's tracker on the bottom, and then this is our tracker on the top. Now, what those trackers are is when you do a mission, this first mission, it's not used. But on a normal mission, the Dark Lord will score points, which you see at the bottom here. So these things in yellow are the way the Dark Lord scores points, and then we score points for doing any of the things up above. And you get 1 experience point for beating the mission, accomplishing whatever the objective is. You get another experience point if your points are higher than the Dark Lord's. Okay, so the way you track all that is you come over here, and it's these two boards. So I put the camera down there. So I would use this to track the Dark Lord's points, and it's double-sided. So once you get up to 90, it keeps going, right? You go to 180 there. So you can track his points with this. So I have that there in the corner because he's at 0. And then for us, we have, I use one of these tokens to track our points. So I have 2 hourglass tokens here. We are on week 1. And if I ever end up to week 11, I'll do that. So it's 10 plus 1. That's week 12, week 13, and so forth. So we're currently on week 1, and we have 0 points. So hopefully that makes sense. The rules don't tell us to do that, but that's what I'm doing to track. That's what's even crazier is he puts these rules in the game, and then he doesn't give you a way to track it. So you have to somehow either remember it or write it down on a sheet of paper. It's the most silly thing. I totally recommend that you just throw that rule out the window. And let me be clear again, and I know I said this in the intro video, the designer himself told you do not have to implement all the rules. This is a system, not a game. Again, I'm mentioning that again. So the system is there where he gives you the rules, and then you can pick and choose whatever ones you want. Now, obviously, if you start picking and choosing the rules too much, you could make this so the game's completely unbalanced. And so you may not want to do that, but it is your game. You can choose what you put in and what you don't. So now, getting back to this, I'm going to put the camera down. We start, according to the thing, here. We are in the city. And when I said that you get to do 1 move and 1 action, the move could be like this. This is a region. It's called T26, and here's your little line, right? T25 is the next region, and it's between this line and this line. I hope that makes sense. And then you can see T25 has a line there too. And then T27 is this little region here that goes along that way. So what I can do is I can go, for example, to region T25 from here. And you have to choose how you're going to do it. Am I going to go along the road, or am I going to go straight into the forest? And the reason that matters is because the event you may have to draw, the event card on the road is different than the event card on the forest. So if you have a mount, you get to move 2 spaces. And then the only other thing about it is if you move 1 space, you can, as a bonus movement, go into a town. So if somehow or another I move to here into T44, I have to see if I draw an event card for T44, but then as a bonus movement, I can go into the town before the end, before I do my action. And so, so you basically get to move twice, or it seems like you're moving twice, but going into the town is like a free thing to do. It's not one movement to get to here, and then you got to wait till next week to go into the town. That's not the way it works, okay? So we're in Vernac. So we're going to be able to move out into the countryside and do a mission that's right here. Now, the mission doesn't show up here. It's actually in the mission book. There's a... So if you come over to the mission book, inside the front cover, on the bottom left corner, you can see that right below where the T26 symbol is, that's where mission 1 is. So see that? So we're here in Vernac, and we would leave to go to mission 1. That's what we're going to be doing to start this game. And that movement, of course, is allowed, because we get to do one movement during week 1. And we could also, if we wanted, just stay in the town and do an action there. And if that's the case, then our movement is forfeited, and then we'd be doing mission 1 during week 2. That's also possible. You don't have to go do the first mission in week 1. We can stay in the town, and then you can see these are all the services in the town. Every hero gets to do up to 3 of them. So there's a lot of stuff there, but to go real quick, I'm going to try to start at the bottom here, right? And we'll go around. The first one is you have the Tavern. So the Tavern, you can roll 1d6 and you can get into a fight with the guards, or all kinds of other stuff can happen, right? There's some things for sale like Supreme Beer and Vigorous Mead. You can go to the Physician, which is this one. So he sells some healing herbs, or he can do services. And then the next one is the Inn. And that's where you would rest to heal. And then there's also services there as well. Everything costs money, folks, and we don't have a lot. Then you have the stables, where you can purchase mounts, and that's a pretty good one. And then there's the market, where you can go buy some. They got the objects for sale, all common objects, healing potions, and then even some weapons and tools, and a possible rare object, so you'd have to roll for that. There is the lender, so we can get a 50 gold loan. I'm sorry, 20 coin loan, and then you have to pay back 3 for every 2 you borrowed. So that's what does that mean? We'd have to pay back 30 gold. And then it even says, so heroes may not get another loan until they have paid back a previous one. If the loan's not paid back, heroes must play the guards event every time they finish a quest until the debt is satisfied. And then there's the King's Governor quarters. There's a lot of reading here, but basically you can get kicked out of the town and not be welcome back if you roll bad enough, or you can get what's called a bonus mission. There's bonus missions that could be in the region or next to the region, and they only become revealed if you can get a rumor. If you're at the inn, you can get one of those as well. And then, of course, there's a treasurer, which lets you store your money in like a bank, so nobody can rob you, and the money stays safe. It costs you 1 gold. All right, I have to pause real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm not going to be staying in the town, so I won't be spending a week there, largely because we don't have a lot of money. So the little bit of money we have, it just doesn't justify the staying there. We could get rumors for another mission, but again, I just don't see the value in that. We're extremely low level. There's this level 1 mission that's meant to be an introductory mission for us. Let's just do that. I don't necessarily want to go off and start doing side quests just yet. Now, one thing I want to show you is you can see the different colors here. And let's zoom in a little. So the red means the campaign mission starts there. So we're going to start our campaign by being there. The yellow is like, that'll actually be the second mission we end up doing, right? But these blue ones, you have to discover those. And that's what I meant by, going to the tavern and if you roll a certain number and you hear rumors, that would let you uncover a particular mission. So those blue missions aren't available to you until you have, done something to discover them. And you go to the king's quarters, which was, let me show you that one real quick. The governor's quarters here. If you go to get a roll of 4 or 6, you heal a point, and then you're offered the possibility of carrying out an independent quest from as many as there are available within a radius of 5 territories, which is a huge radius. So then, along with the reward specified, you get 20 extra coins if you complete it, which that's a wonderful opportunity. But if you roll really bad, you have to leave the settlement immediately. And then if you roll a 1, you will not be able to visit again during the whole year. I mean, it's insane. So you got to be really, really careful with that. And I don't think you get to use fortune points on those. Maybe you do. It's a really ambiguous thing in the rules. But I'm just trying to help you understand there's a lot of options here. And it would be great to do one of these side quests, get the extra 20 coins, because that sounds like the thing to do, right? To get rich quick. But let's just do the introductory mission, because I'm still learning the game myself, and I'm not ready to go off and do some tangential, thing, which I'm sure is going to be a tougher battle. And I'm sure he designed those ones to you have to employ all of your skills. So, for our action, we are going to leave the town and go to the quest, which was right below here. So I'm just going to put our little marker right there in the countryside. Now, you can see that the symbol is the blue with the almost yellow below it. All that's trying to say is it's grasslands and plains. Because see, this is plains over here, and these are grasslands, and they have the same symbol. And you can see there's a forest symbol there, there's a road symbol there. So we're going into the grasslands. So before we do the quest, we have to check to see if we're going to get a grasslands event. Because anytime you enter an area, you have to see if there's an event. And that includes the town. So if we ever were to go back to the town from the grasslands, I'm going to have to see if I get an event in the town. But since we started in the town, that's not the case. So I'm going to roll for the grasslands. And what you see, I'm grabbing the deck of cards here. There's so many components in this game. So this is what the deck of cards looks like. So it shows the picture at the top, and it shows over here on the left, you need a 5 or better in order for something to happen. And so I rolled a 1. So nothing happens. We don't get an event. So we don't have to draw one of these cards. Okay, that part's good. And now let's move on to the regularly scheduled program. So the quest is called The Return of Razbal. And I'm going to grab the camera again. So sorry. You're in one of the many taverns that flourish in Vernick. Since the city is home to a multitude of merchants, it's become a bustling place where travelers of all races and places from all over the world converge. Trade attracts money, and money attracts adventurers, thieves, and bounty hunters. The city remains a pigsty. Pigsty? Oh, pigsty. Okay. Yeah, I haven't used that word in a long time. Surrounded by a low stone wall, and its suburbs extend into the outskirts, merging with spaces dedicated to orchards and farms. New stone houses have hardly been erected because most of those who spend the night are passing through. The inhabitants of the city are still suspicious of foreigners in just the same way as when the city had barely any movement. The eternal rivalries between Elena's nobles still persist. It has always been a troubled region, perhaps because it is located in a crossroads or because of the balance of forces among the different noble houses. This is not a very engaging story so far. After the independence of Pulse, internal quarrels and disputes returned. Now the governor of Vernick suspects that the Count of the caravans of merchants the Count of neighboring region of Vitania is hiring bandits to assault the caravans of merchants crossing the Adsbrag. I'm reading through the camera, so I apologize. Count Rysard uses the ploy to redirect the traffic so that the merchants can divert northwards and participate in the small riverbank markets that belong to him. Hart, governor of Vernick, wants to take rough measures against his neighbor, But first he needs to confirm his suspicions. That is why he has commissioned Arthos, head of the city guard, to look for volunteers to intercept those bandits and make them confess whether they are acting on their own or under Richard's directives. You'll be generously rewarded on succeeding in the mission. So now we got to do mission M1. So that's where we did our move. We checked for an event, and we now go to M1, which of course says free the merchants. So I'm going to show you what this looks like so you can set up your own game. First of all, it shows it's a 45 to 60 minutes. There's flavor text. It's easy level difficulty. It's mission 1, so you can confirm you're at the right place. Our goal is to prevent at least one of the 2 merchants from being knocked out. And we're playing with the faction Bandits. And I just explained all that with the bestiary stuff. So with the setup, it's saying that the reserve point counter is not used. So that means that the Dark Lord doesn't get points like they normally do. They spend points to like make our lives harder. They're not going to get any. So it's an introductory mission. And they're not going to use their card deck either. Achievement points will not be taken into account, so we're not going to be doing scores on either side. And we have to use the counter to count the number of remaining turns. We do have to do that. So I know we haven't got to that spot yet, but we have 5 turns to win this mission. So that'll be a little countdown timer. Depending on the number of heroes, we have, different levels of monsters. So we're doing 5 heroes, so we're going to get all 6 of these. And then they go into these various locations on the board. And then there's a horse and a cart. And then here's the 2 merchants. And then this is where we enter. It tells you the tile numbers to use, which is for this tile and that tile. It does not tell you the tile numbers of the horse, cart, and this, which was annoying. So I had to find those the hard way. The tile stands, of course, were annoying. And so is the way he does this, but we'll get into that in a second. So there's special rules. We're going to roll before anybody takes a turn to see if it's nighttime. So let's do that, and I hope it's not nighttime because I really don't want to deal with that. Okay, it's not nighttime. All right. In this case, there would be a darkness card that would have applied. We have a time limit of 6 turns, but only 5 turns if we're playing with the automated Dark Lord, which we are. It's not a race. With the automated Dark Lord, no hero can run during his first turn. So that's just a rule we have to deal with. And then the characters handled by the Dark Lord who are not engaged, that means they're in melee with one of us, will at all times go after the merchants because they're trying to kill the merchants. This is only a 1-chance quest. Okay, so if it's accomplished, we're going to read T1. Otherwise, we go to T2, and there's rewards. So it says that there's furniture. There's this horse cart. The wagon height is 1. Characters can climb on it. Consider the horse as an ally, meaning that when you go next to it, you don't have to stop your movement. And then, like I said, these 6 guys. So let's go over this really quick, and I'll show you on the board. The first one is a human bandit with a sword and shield. Then we have a shooter with a short bow, human bandit with an axe and a shield, a warhound, in addition to the above, shooter with short bow, and then an assassin, okay? And they all start facing the merchant, so they have their back to us. So I'm going to put the camera down here, and we're going to talk about how to set this up and what we did and so forth. So let me get this book out of the way. Okay, first things first. There's a furniture card that is the horse-drawn carriage. So if you're ever next to the horse-drawn carriage, you can search it. And depending on what you roll, these things could happen. And so you can get 2 random common objects, for example, if you roll a 5. You can keep it at a horse as a mount if you roll a 6, which that is the best reward of all. And of course, it requires you to roll a perfect 6, but that's there. And then each of these things means something too. And I'm trying to remember, like this means I think you can push it. This means that it's got a height of 1. I think that means we can, yeah, let's look that up real quick. Let's pause. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little. So you can see there's these different symbols that can be on furniture. And then it just got A, B, C, D, E, right? So we have B symbol. And if we come over here to the left, it says you need to interact to know its effects. And then C was the height, which we talked about already. And then D there looks like a guy pushing a wall. The element provides light cover. That's what that means. Holy cow, I got that one wrong. Light cover means that anybody who's doing a ranged attack against you gets a -1 to their roll. Now, heavy cover would be a -2. F is, it's got that little X on it there. That means it's impassable. You won't be able to move through it. Obviously, ours does not have the F, right? And then the A is also missing from ours. See, we don't have A. A is the effect starts as soon as you enter the section. So there's no effect on this one, of course. Then you got D and E. So you got a single arrow, and then E is a double arrow. And so, oh, I'm sorry, D is light cover, E is heavy cover. What's the guy pushing the wall? That is I. Let's go look at I. Oh, the element can be moved. It can be pushed. Okay, good, good, good. I was starting to think I was going crazy. And then there's an H. The dark player will not be able to activate any counter cards. Oh, that's because of this here. So if you see this, that means the dark player can't activate that type of card. And then this one over here, if you see this on something, that is the dark player pays half the usual cost to spawn a creature. So there's some things that may help those are called special elements, which is really just a fancy way of saying special furniture. Okay. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, here we go. We have 2 merchants. They're on their horse, which is here. The merchants are here. And they're supposed to be represented by this civilian tile. I couldn't find a second one, and maybe there is, but it could be in that big pile of stuff I showed. One of the dwarven bandits, which aren't in this game, and I made him the second merchant. So they're both on the cart right now, and everything in this game is about facing a certain way. So what I did is, you can see that it's sticking out more on the right side than on the left. Otherwise, I don't know how to represent facing in this game. I mean, you could say, okay, he's facing that way by doing that, but he also was looking this way because he's double-sided, see? You could say it's the side with the number, right? You could say the side with the number is the side that he's facing. That's another way to do it. I decided to make it so, you know, he's sticking off of his stand a little more. And you can see I got that represented here. So this particular bandit is facing this way. And technically, he's facing diagonal. That isn't a direction. You can face diagonal. And when you're facing diagonal, these 3 spaces are in front of you, and then these 3 spaces are behind you. And so these guys would be facing, and then, you know, maybe this one appears a little on the diagonal. So here you got everybody there. And then here's the next dilemma. I have a warrior with a sword and a shield. So you can see I grabbed the picture of a bandit with a shield, and then I put a little sword token next to him. And then I have another one that has an axe. So I put an axe token next to that one. Otherwise, you have no way of knowing which one's which. And they do provide these tokens for that exact purpose. You know, so now I could have put that token on the ground or underneath him, but I tried to like make them share the stand. It's not working really well because if I try to pick this up, it does, I guess it does work, but you have to be really careful. It's not sure-proof. I would have liked, you know, maybe to try something different. I would have actually liked it if these stands weren't stands and they actually could fit on the space, and then I could just put this on top of it. So let's just lay it flat down, you know, have just a circular picture of the bandit. That actually might have worked. This one has a bow, and you can see I put the bow in the back. The picture itself was pretty self-explanatory. So does this one. Then, of course, you have the assassin, which doesn't show any weapons, and we'll talk about that in a second. And there are 2 warhounds. The picture, it said add warhound in the rulebook, which was a singular. But if you look at the picture, there was 2 of them. So I think you add both. And I'm pretty positive I did that correctly. So why is it important to have, you know, the weapons and all this stuff? Let's first of all, let's go back to the human bandit with like the shield. There is no bandit with a shield here. Okay, that's one of the first reasons. And what they have instead is they just have a Human Bandit card. So this Human Bandit card is covering all the bases. So they all have the same stats. And then you can see for the equipment, they may have an axe, they may have a broadsword or a mace. They may have a shield or leather armor. So all those things are defined. So we know that the first one has a broadsword and a shield. The second one has an axe and a shield. Neither of them have armor. Okay? And then, of course, they don't have the mace. So you have to, like, keep track of what's what, because this card covers all of that. The next thing it does is it says, okay, if they have an axe, then they do damage on a 4 or better, right? And they get -1 to their attack if they're, I want to say if they're wearing armor. I'll have to look that up real quick. And then if they do a blunder is they got to roll 2 1s. Then they could lose their weapon. Their weapon could break on a 1 or a 2. And then you can see that the broadsword has something similar, and so forth. And then, of course, the shield will let them block hits potentially, and there's a lot of rules with that. They have skills listed here, and they have +1 VP. Remember, the Dark Lord gets points, right? So if the Dark Lord were to spend a victory point, they can give him the Watchman's skill. So they don't start with the Watchman's skill, but if the Dark Lord spends one of his points, which, by the way, there's no points in this mission, but if they did have points, they could have spent it for the Watchman. Now, how do you know they're going to spend points or not? The scenario actually tells you. And so don't stress out over that so much. That is pretty self-explanatory. And then on the back, it tells you what all the skills are. So you don't need to go and find the skill in the skill deck. I thought that was a really nice touch. Really, really grateful for that. But this is the part where you get overwhelmed. You got to remember all this nonsense. Every time you're fighting them, you're like, okay, he's a dirty fighter. He's got to do this. So that's one of the things. So one of the things I want to look up is, what is this little -1? I know that's -1 to his combat, but that little armor picture that's next to it, like, what does that mean? I think that, I know. It's -1 to the armor of who you're hitting, because axes, chop through armor. That's what that means. I got it figured out. But they get a -1 to their combat. They roll their dice and they get to add 3, right? Well, in this case, if you're wearing an axe, then you roll your dice, you only get to add 2. And the way you hit is, when you're doing melee combat, you have to roll more than your opponent. So your opponent rolls their dice, you roll your dice, and if the opponent outrolls you, then you don't do any damage at all. Okay, so that's a Human Bandit. So that covers the guy with the shield. Now, there is a separate one that's called Shooter. So this is same concept, except, we know he has a short bow because they told us. So the short bow has a range of 18, etc. So we would just use that to do his damage. And you can see his skills are pretty much the same. The Warhound has similar things. Obviously, there's a lot less to him. Nothing on the back. Now, they have an AI preference as well. And whenever the Dark Lord takes their turn, we got like 4 things here. Like, how are they choosing their selection? So this will tell you how they select their targets. This tells you, creature activation, initiative roll. If you're placing creatures, where do they go? In rooms, large rooms, card activation, which we're not going to get to do because there's no cards for this particular mission. And then this is what you do if your VP, your value points are worth more than 75. Then there's things that the Dark Lord gets that makes the game a little harder. So that wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but that's good enough for now. It's on the Bandits here. So the Bandit card and remember, this is just a copy of what's in the bestiary, is again, you have a repeat of where the numbers go, right? These are the most common skills. It doesn't mean everybody has those skills. It's just giving you a summary. Then it has charts. So if there's ever a creature spawn, you would roll, and then this is what spawns. If you draw the thief card, then there could be a wandering creature and a special creature. Oh, darn it, that's not it either. So there's this thing called AI behavior, and I do remember reading about it. I just need to find it. So let me do that real quick. Okay, I got it all figured out now. Do the okay in your best Joe Pesci voice. Yes. So these cards that I was just showing you, this one's not in this particular mission, but see that picture there with the crossed halberd or axe? That is the behavior the minion uses, that little picture there, right? And then it says here, like, if he's got a bow, he would use the archer behavior instead. So this is a case where this particular minion has two different behaviors it can do. So that's what you do. So, so for example, the shooter would have the archer behavior. The warhound had like a mount, like a horse-looking behavior. That bandit had the crossed axes. And then before I show you the rest of the behaviors, we'll go to the assassin real quick, and you can see he's got the crossed axes as well. The assassin starts with a leather armor, 2 daggers, and a short sword. It says may have these other things, but because the rulebook just said assassin with no other words next to it, then you just assume that it has the basic stuff. So I just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. And they have a ton of skills. Poisonous, elite, expert throw. So the assassin's not somebody to mess with. But here's the deal. There are some cards I have off to the side. In fact, it's right next to where the threat tracker is, and it looks like this. So I actually have these 2 cards, which are special, because that is Razabal, the final boss, and then he has his own card. And technically, you could just put those off to the side, because you're never going to use those until the final, battle, or at least I don't think you would use them until the final battle. The rest of these all have this back, and the red always means AI Dark Lord, right? So it's the automated Dark Lord. And now you can see, look, there's these cards here. So you have right there, this is what the mounts would do, the warhounds. So they would, at the beginning of the activation, they would do this, and you would literally just go through and do what it says. And if you keep going, we have, there's your melee fighter. So they're going to do this. Now the target priority we're going to ignore, because this has special rules that the target priority is always the merchants unless they're engaged. And so you can see that it never tries to disengage, etc. And then of course there's the ranged fighter, and those are the only 2 we're going to use. We're going to use those 2 plus the mount one. So there's these extra cards here that we're supposed to use. I totally forgot about that, but that it would explain why I was going bonkers on, like, I thought the behavior was here somewhere. That's where the behavior is. So you got a lot of crap you have to look up. This feels worse than Sword and Sorcery, and I didn't do a playthrough of Sword and Sorcery, but Sword and Sorcery bothered me because that each card for every enemy character had just so much you had to read and keep track of. Like, it gave me a headache. This game's going to do that, and I'm still excited about it because it's got a cool system, but I do have to admit it's going to fatigue me to play this game. And in some ways, this is almost as bad as like Enemy Action Kharkov, except there's not a giant if-then-else tree, which I'm still happy with. But I gotta know what his skills are. I gotta remember what the AI card says. There's a lot of things you have to remember, and I'm just saying that for the benefit of people trying to decide if this is the right game for them. This is not going to be the right game for a lot of people. So everybody's facing this way. You can see there, anywhere that was pertinent, I put the tokens to represent what kind of weapon they have, so we don't have to keep looking that up. That's super critical. And if I didn't put a weapon, it was because it's just a default. All right, all of our heroes are starting on the edge of the map. Now, I did buy the extra miniatures from the game. I'm not using them, though. I am using this one. This is our Forester. And you can see they got the bow, right? This is our Rogue, Halfling Rogue. And you may recognize the characters here. I stole these from Altar Quest. This is our magic user, our wizard. This is our paladin. It happens to be a vampire in Altar Quest, but you know, it's a paladin in this game. And I know it doesn't look like a dwarf, but the dwarf has this is our dwarf. And so the Dwarven Barbarian. And so we're going to go ahead and move forward with that. Like the Dwarven Barbarian actually has an axe, not a mace. But the miniatures that came with the expansion pack wasn't very good. There was no Dwarven miniature with an axe, which really bothered me. I do have... Oh, where are you? I know he's here. So in Altar Quest, there is this. There's a Dwarven miniature with an axe there. It's just not painted. In fact, I'll go ahead and use it because it's more thematic. This one was painted, though, which I really liked, how painted he was. If I made a cleric, I would have used this guy. And he's the cleric in Altar Quest as well. So I'm going to pause real quick so I can put this away. Okay, heroes always go first. When you open a new room or a door, that is not, then you roll for initiative to see who goes first. But I'm pretty sure for the start of the mission, we always go first. In fact, I'm starting to creep in some doubt. So, let me look. Okay, so normally when there's enemies within range, there's an initiative roll. So this is why I was getting confused. But the scenario actually says the heroes go first. So that's where, so I was right. I was right in both cases. So we get to go first. And the order that we go is up to us. Normally there's a 2-square safety radius, but that's not the case here because there's no enemies that are going to spawn. What you see is what you get. Our mission is in 5 turns, we have to wipe everybody out and keep the merchants alive. One other thing that's worth pointing out is that this particular set of bushes, these 4 hexes, or squares, these 4 squares, and then those 4 squares are like blocking barriers. So for example, if they were to hide, here and here, the archers couldn't shoot them, and the archers can't shoot through these 4 spaces either. Now, there is the rule is center to center when you're trying to decide if you have line of sight for shooting. So bear that in mind. Okay, we're ready. So let's figure out what to do here. Our Dwarven Barbarian, for example, has 5 movement. We have our lion, who we have as our pet. That one has 8 movement. And the way attacking from behind works is you get to ignore armor. And like the armor doesn't help them. And then also, I think you get like a +1 to your roll. So the attacking from behind is really, really helpful. And right here, melee combat. So there is an opposing roll, meaning that the enemy rolls and you roll to see if you hit. But there's some modifiers here. So if they have cover, they get there's a -1 to us. If you're in an elevated position, you get a +1. And then attack from the back gives a +1 to the attack, and the defender cannot use their shield. That's, I didn't mean the armor, it's the shield. And then if it's a stationary target, so -1 to their armor. None of these are stationary. And then, of course, difficult terrain can make it worse as well. So if you win the opposing roll, you can push if they're equal or smaller size. And if there's no empty squares possible for them to push to, they take an extra damage die. That's an important thing to remember. And then if an enemy is eliminated, blah, blah, blah. Now, one thing this doesn't cover is the attack from behind. Let's just assume that this is a hero. If that hero started here, he's in front. If he had enough movement points to get behind, and I'm ignoring the fact that you can't move 2 spaces next to somebody because there's engagement rules and all that stuff. But let's say he can move from there to behind. He does not get the bonus. Because if at any point during his movement he was seen, then he doesn't get the attack from behind bonus. You only get the attack from behind bonus if your entire movement action was behind somebody. Now, if you're seen by somebody else, that's fine, because this person still didn't see you. So you still get to do that bonus against them. Okay? So we're going to go first, and they're all looking at the merchants because they're trying to take down these merchants. So we're going to get an attack from behind bonus. So I actually want to do the lion first because he has 8 movement. And so we enter here, 1. Now, you normally can run, which gives you double movement, but the rules say you don't get to run this first turn. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 doesn't get him there. But if we go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that does. So I can take this guy out from behind. And that's exactly what I want to do. So the lion is going to attack him from behind. And we got our little lion card here that I'll show you. He has a 5 to his combat rating, and then 5 for his strength. That's not used yet, but just keep that in the back of your mind. He has 5 strength. But the 5 combat rating is what's important now. So that means he gets to add 5. And then the human bandit has 3. And he has a shield, but remember, he doesn't get to use it because we're attacking him from behind. That's why we want to take out the shield users right away. And then, this particular one has an axe, which doesn't really do anything here. So I'm going to move the camera back. We're going to use black dice for them, white dice for the good guys. So this is what we're going to roll. And he gets to add 3 to his, and we add 5 to ours. And we have to at least tie or break him. During ties, they can win sometimes. Because the tiebreaker is not always yours. I think if they have a shield, they win ties. I'll look that up when we actually tie. Let's just get going. So here we go. So I rolled horrible. They rolled a 9, plus 3 is 12. I rolled a 6, plus 5 is 11. And I don't do diddly squat with that attack. So the combat in this game is not very satisfying in that regard. But basically, they were able to parry me or whatever, even though I'm sorry. We get a +1 because we're attacking from behind. So we actually tied them. We're at 12. So I actually got the tie situation. All right, so that means I got to look up how to handle ties. So let me, I'm reading this thing up here under combat. So put this down. So I'm reading that combat section there, all those small words. In fact, the camera's in the way, so I can't read it. So I'm going to have to put you back. I'm going to pause, and then we'll look it up real quick. Okay, so it's actually here. Opposing roll. In case of a tie, which is what happened here, the character with the highest agility wins. Then the one with the shield is the second tiebreaker. So I'm pretty darn sure the lion's going to have more agility, but let's look real quick. His agility is 3, so it's a little wing there. And the lion's agility, I have to reach really far, is 5. So by the skin of our chinny chin chin, the lion's claws, I was able to hit this guy. Okay, so now this is where the strength comes in. The strength says we get to roll 5 dice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't matter what color they are. So we're going to roll 5 damage dice. And how do we know if those damage dice actually hit him? That is a great point. The damage dice will hit based on the weapon you use, but he's using claws and fangs. So how do claws and fangs work? Give me a second. I believe that's in our deck of skill cards. So this would be our natural skills. And I'm willing to bet there's claws and fangs in here somewhere. And I just never pulled them out. Sharp senses, large, small, flying, corrosion. Oh, maybe I did pull them out. Battle wizard, sharp taming animals. Nope, I don't have claws and fangs. Okay, that's annoying. That or the claws and fangs are somewhere else, a different type of skill. Oh, it's considered equipment. So that would be a weapon. My apologies. So we got to take this big weapon deck, and somewhere in here is claws and fangs. All right, so we got swords. Right there, claws. So there you can see he rolls as much dice as his strength. And how do we know he... Or is it just a... Oh, I might be overthinking this. I think they hit on a 4, 5, or 6. This game is there's so many rules. And like I said, when you read it, it's totally clear. Here we go. Damage and conditions. So if you roll 1, it never causes a wound. If you roll a 6, you get to add another die. Oh, I forgot to mention that. So if I would have rolled because I rolled I think I rolled a 4 and a 2. If either of those were a 6, I would get to add 1 extra damage die to my damage. So here we got to look at size. Well, the lion is the same size as the person, so there's no extra effect. Otherwise, you could knock them down, stuff like that. So none of these are true. That doesn't help me with damage. I'm trying to use these cards to show you how to resolve this, and these cards are not being very helpful. So okay, let me find where in the rule book you can find this for yourself, because I'm trying to teach this game while at the same time I'm learning and playing. And yeah, this is annoying. I guarantee you, whatever the rules are, they're simple. It's just, I forgot them. They were simple, and I did forget them, and I'm such a goober. Okay, we're rolling the 5 dice, and the weapon itself doesn't tell you, this just says how many dice you roll. We're going to roll 5 dice because that's his strength. The damage is based on the armor. So this human bandit has 3 armor. So if I roll a 3, 4, 5, or 6, I hit. And then he takes 1 wound. And then you can see here he has 4 health. So it was that simple. I just had to look at the right spot. And so let's go ahead and roll these 5 dice. I don't think we get any more bonuses. And I didn't roll super well, but 3 of the 5 do hit. So this thing is down to 1 health. This guy is down to 1 health. And I got to reach across the table again. Going to bring this a little bit closer. So this guy has 3 damage on him. And I don't know any other way to represent it other than just put 3 tokens next to him. And he's 1 away from death. So the lion did a good job. It would have been nice to finish him off, but can't complain. So that was the lion's turn. And I think a lot of this is going to come much more natural the more you play and the rules start to sink in. So I apologize, I'm pausing, and for me, I'm what, an hour into this video and we're finally getting to some action. So my apologies there, because I know some of you might be like, boy, gosh, that was awful. But there's a lot to explain. And the other part is, for me, it's easily been an hour and a half because I'm flipping through rule books in between these pauses. But anyways, now, why am I not worried about the war dogs? Well, because they're closer, and some of these guys who don't have as much movement points can go after the war dogs. So I'm trying to take out the bandits first. I would love to take this guy out before he has a chance to do anything. I just don't know if I can. And let's figure out who is going to go next. So we have Chun, the wizard. He can get a water elemental to join us. It is super powerful. However, the spells that take 2 mana, you can't move and then cast a spell. So that's one thing to understand. And so he can do like that ice wall, but again, he can't move and cast that spell. So the ice wall would be awesome because he can make an ice wall that prevents them from shooting at the merchants or even getting to the merchants. That's actually a really good idea. So it creates an ice wall 1 to 3 squares long and 1 square wide on empty squares in a straight line determined by him. The wall blocks line of sight and is impassable. And then they can try to attack it. It takes 8 vitality and has an armor of 6. That's actually really hard to take down. So, getting an ice wall that's right there in front of them would be really, really awesome. What's the range on this guy? The range, the duration looks like it's just 1. So it's 2 mana, which means you can't move and cast. Again, because we're now doing something new, we got more rules we gotta remember. And it's funny because when I first started recording, I remembered all these rules, but it's been a couple days now between the first recording and now I'm finally getting to play, and that's how quickly things are forgetting. So you need to use your intelligence test. You have to get to a 10. Now it says maximum of 3 casts per spell. Permanent spell lasts for as many turns as the highest result of the 2 dice. And so this ice wall would be a permanent spell. Superior spells require 2 mana points and does not allow moving. That was the part I was trying to explain. When you're casting a spell, another spellcaster can try to dispel it, which means they're canceling you from being able to use your spell. And that's it. So if you have projectiles, there's going to be certain things that could prevent you from being able to hit. Now the little symbology, that's what I'm going to look up next. Okay, it's not going to be a very helpful spell. So this symbol just means it's a protecting class of spell. This is the range. So that is 1 space away from the caster. So you can do an ice wall to protect himself, but he couldn't project it all the way across the map to protect the he would have to be next to the merchants to be able to cast this to help them. And then I think this 15 just means that's the number. I don't think that means anything else. So that's not a very useful one. And like I said, the water elemental, very helpful, but we got to get onto the map before we can do that. And then we have treacherous water that makes them unable to move more than 2 squares per turn. That could be helpful. And you can see the range is 12 on that one. And then this is just saying that it's in it's a AoE. So it hits everybody that's 2 spaces around whatever you hit. So, and of course we've got a healing spell. So what we may want to do is just not necessarily go with this guy yet. He's got 6 movement. The halfling has 5. The elf forester has 6. Now, the forester, of course, shoots. And I may want to shoot that assassin while we got him looking behind us. So you can see there's some modifiers here. You get a -1 if you're shooting a smaller target. But if I move and shoot, I get a -1. And then I get a -2 if I move more than half of my movement. So, and then of course there's light and heavy cover, and if their agility is greater than yours. So that's why it was really important to have the high agility with our shooter, which our shooter's agility is 4, so we're doing great there. And then of course there's a defensive shot that gets a negative modifier as well. So those modifiers, if we take our elf, so you can see that he's got a range shot of 5. So we're gonna roll 2 dice. We only have to get to 10 to hit him. So the 2 dice get added to that 5 to get to 10. But because I'm gonna move, I have to subtract at least 1. And if I move more than half of my movement points, which is more than 3 spaces, then I have to subtract another 1. So it'll be -2. So that 5 will actually be effectively a 3. Now there's also another issue with shooting, and it doesn't show it on the shooting. It sort of disappoints me, but it is on this. So I'm just going to bring this closer for us. So when you're doing range attacks, there's this handy little thing on here that shows that there's a -1, -2, -3 based on the range. So the distance to target matters. And so if it's 1 to 3, there's no penalty, but if it's 4 to 6, you get another -1. If you're going 7 to 9, you get another -2. So you may say, hey, I only want to move 3 points, so I only get a -1 instead of a -2. But now you're shooting 3 more spots away, which is going to give you a -1 anyways. So you might as well move your full 6, take the -2, and then you might get a lower penalty here. Does that make sense? So we just got to use this. Like I said, this is the screen for the Dark Lord. The rules are superior because like this range attack here is better than this shooting, because this doesn't even, well, right there, it does have it at the bottom, distance to target. So it's jammed in there. It just was harder to read, I guess, for me. My apologies. When you're recording, your mind is like going through 100 things, and it is funny how you miss stuff that's so obvious. But that's exactly what just happened. So let me put this down, set that off to the side. So I think I do want to shoot, and I want to shoot that assassin. I want to kill him. So if I came in and did 1, 2, and you can move diagonal, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would put me at a range of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. So put this down. 5 away gives me another -1. So 4 to 6 squares is -1. 7 to 9 squares is -2. So if I would have went back 1, 2, 3, like that, it would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so it still would have been, overall, it's -2, right? Actually, it's -3, because I did a -2 to get here, and then it's another -1 because of how far he is. So I'm getting a -3. If I would have only moved 3 spaces, I would have only gotten a -1 for the movement, but it would have been -2 for the shooting. So overall, it's -3 either way. I'm just closer. Now, if I wanted to, I could probably finish this guy off because, you know, I'm moving and he's a lot closer. And then, of course, these warhounds are closer as well. But like I said, the assassin is, to me, enemy number 1. The archer, of course, is bad because their archers could possibly peg the merchants. But I'm going to go for... All right, so we're going to roll 2 dice. We need to get to a 10. We get a -3 to our roll, but he adds a +5. So we're going to have a net of +2. So there is a possibility we're going to miss this one. So let's go ahead and do it. And I rolled a 5. So we failed miserably. So completely missed our shot. And that's, I guess, pretty normal there. All right, let's keep going. We have our paladin move 6 spaces. I made sure I boosted everybody's movement. I wanted everybody to be able to move lots and lots of spaces. The dwarf moves 5. Our rogue moves 5. So what else do we got? Well, the rogue is tiny. So we have an issue with it being tiny. So for example, if we went 1, we could go 2, 3, 4. We can even go 5 and attack this one and still be able to hit it from behind. So we can do that. So let me look at his skills, see if there's anything else I need to factor in. If it was dark, that would have been really bad. We can skulk. We can mislead, but that would be our action. I want to attack. Unfortunately, his attack is only a 3. And his weapon has a -1 while defending, but otherwise it's good. He gets to subtract 1 from their armor, which is good. But we have to roll the dice. So we're going to roll 2 for us, 2 for him. So here's our 2, here's his 2. Remember, we're going to get, we add 3 because we're the halfling. They have 4. But we get a +1 because we're attacking from behind. And so we rolled an 11, and that's a crit. That's 6 there. And they got an 8. So we beat them because they're adding 4, but we're also adding 4. So we're going to be able to hit them. So now we do our damage to them. The damage, though, our strength is only 2. So we only have 2 dice to roll. But because we rolled the crit, we get to add 1 more. So we're going to roll 3 dice against that dog. And the dog has an armor of 3. But remember, our weapon, the short sword, reduces the armor by 1. So now it's a 2. So we're going to be able to hit 1, 2, 3 times. And the dog has 4 health. So he is also 1 away from dying. So I just realized there's a 3 token. So I'm going to put some 3 tokens out and take back those 1s. So we got that dog 1 away from death. So I'm really annoyed by this because having them down to 1 health, they are considered wounded when they're down to 1 health, or at least we are. I don't know if the enemies get the wounded condition. That's a really great question. When you're down to 1 health, you get what's called the wounded condition. Let me check to see if the enemies get that. Okay, great news. It does apply. In a large creature, it applies if they're down to 5 or less health. And then what happens to them when they're wounded? They get the same effect as being stunned. And you got to set aside your belief system here, because stunned in other games means you don't get to do anything and you spend a whole turn recovering. That's not the case here. Stunned characters get a -1 penalty to all attributes except their natural armor, so that Warhound's still going to have 3 armor. His mana and vitality, so that doesn't change, but like his agility, his combat ability, all that stuff all get reduced by 1. And then of course it can be canceled in the recovery phase at the beginning of the character's activation. So they have to roll a die to see if stun gets canceled. But the problem is they're wounded. Wounded only gets canceled if they can heal and get more than their 1 hit point. There is no way to remove the stun condition if you're wounded. But if you were just stunned, meaning you weren't stunned because you're wounded, then yes, you get a recovery roll at the beginning of your turn. So there is a condition token somewhere in this big stack of components that we can put that he's stunned, and so is that guy over there, because they're both 1 away from death. So that is helpful, because it does mean that when they do attack, they're going to be able to do it less, and they also can't run. So, and it is on the screen, by the way. I did eventually find it. So, the stunned, we have all kinds of tokens here. We got, these, actually this one here is for tracking points. So I should be using that to track his points instead of that. Or we could use it to track our points, I guess. Here they are. So one of those means stunned. they are not as helpful to me as they should be. Like, I think that one's like poisoned. So they're the symbology of these is less than desirable. Let's put it that way. So there is a page in this book that explains what every marker does. And that page is extremely helpful. I just got to find it. And it's not page 1. You'd think it would be, but it's not. And here it is. So it's page 16, in case you're wondering. And as you can see here, they got every single token, and all the condition tokens are over here. So you can see the stunned. Stunned looks like the little skull with the sun around it. Wounded is the one that has all the plus signs around the skull. Diseased, that actually looks like a sword at first, but it's really one of those people wearing those bird masks. Oh, stationary, abandoned weapon. That means you lost your weapon. Berserker, flight, goal, frightened is this one. So a lot of different ones, but the one we're looking for is the wounded one, which we can see those in front of us. And the rulebook, people are saying that the rulebook on this is bad. I don't think it's bad at all. I've been able to find my answers to every question I've asked so far. Every one. And I know I hit pause because I'm trying to save you guys some time, but sometimes I hit pause, I find the question, it took me longer to hit pause. This was one of those situations, or actually this time I didn't even hit pause. So, so this guy's wounded, and then so is this one. Now, one thing that is annoying is these tokens are really hard to keep track of what token goes with what person. But you could put it like underneath them if you wanted, but then it's covered up. It's like, it's annoying that way. So anyways, this guy's wounded, and so is this one. All right, let's move on. I know this is dragging out way longer than it's supposed to. Okay, we still have 3 characters left, and our Dwarven Barbarian can only move 5. So he will move 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to attack this hound. And so he gets 2 dice. The hound gets 2 dice. The hound gets to add 4 because he has 4 combat, and we're attacking the one that's not wounded. And then the Dwarven Barbarian, just to refresh you on him, he has 5 with 4 strength. So he'll be adding 5 to his combat. And remember, he gets to add 1 more because we're behind. So this is awful. We rolled a 3, but he also rolled a 3, and so we end up winning. All right, so now that we won, we're going to do damage, and that's 5 or 4 dice. We didn't get a critical, so that doesn't let us do anything. And his armor, the armor for the Warhound is 3. So I would need all 4 of these to hit, and they didn't. Only 2 of them hit, so the Warhound takes 2 damage, and we got that one reduced as well. And I'm just going to put the damage behind the dog there. Now, these dogs and everybody, they're going to still be running towards the merchant. But we have them engaged now. These are considered small creatures. So this creature is engaged with the dwarf, and then the hobbit has this one engaged with him because they're both the same size. So we got that in place. The lion is engaged with this guy, so he's not going to be able to move. But so far, 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys do have free movement to go after them. And then we got 2 more people. So our paladin can move 6 spaces. So what can we do with 6? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's it. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got to count the entry space. So that's all you can do. I don't have any ranged weapons with the paladin, so we're moving 6 and then we're stopping. Remember, you can't run on the first turn. Okay, lastly is we have the mage. Like I said, got some really nice spells, but we got to at least get on the board. So we're going to move 6 spaces with the mage as well. I'm going to move up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I don't know if that puts me in a precarious position to get hit, but we could cast a spell that's just for 1 mana. Obviously, our staff isn't going to do diddly, and we do have this this Treacherous Waters that we can try. It has a range of 12. Like I said, it can affect anywhere that's 2 away, and the enemies that are hit, they have to pass an agility test, or else they'll be stunned. And stunned, of course, causes problems for them, and they're unable to move more than 2 squares per turn. And then the number of turns this would last is based on what we roll to cast the spell. So, anyways, we'll go ahead and try that. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to roll 2 dice, and we have to exceed 10. And we did move an attack with the spell, and I don't think that matters. Like, it matters when you're aiming a bow, but not when you're doing a spell. I don't see anything there. Projectiles deal -1 if they're in light cover. And then control spells have issues if you're going up against large or huge or champion level creatures. And a new spell may be cast while another spell is active, has a penalty. So like if you have so we're going to cast what's called a permanent spell. It's not permanent, but it lasts a certain number of turns. If we try to cast another permanent spell, like I think the water elemental is considered a permanent spell, we're going to get a -1 unless we're willing to like discard the first one. And we may be willing to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and roll real quick. And we didn't roll very well. We rolled a 5, but the wizard has a intelligence of 5. So he still passed. He got to his 10. So we got to pay the 1 mana point here. And I got to put that on the spell itself to show that we cast that spell once, because there's a limit to the number of times you can cast a spell. And then if we were keeping points, that actually would have scored us a point. And so there is no dispelling, there is no spell resistance. Only an enemy spellcaster can dispel you. So then we're going to pick a spot, and everybody within 2. So like if I pick this spot here, these 2 characters are impacted, the assassin and this archer, and then these 2. And just to clarify something that was in the rulebook, the rulebook was saying that this is the front and then the number is the back. So you can always know who is facing who by, just doing it that way. Instead of doing like what I'm doing, which is, sticking them, where that's pointing to the front. I sort of like the fact that that's pointing to the front on this mission, because I like to see their picture. When they're facing that way, it just looks like, it looks like this. I have no idea who that is. So now I got to turn it every time, because of the angle I'm sitting. But anyways, neither here nor there. So all of them are impacted by this the spell called Treacherous Waters. So they're all stunned. So we got... And stun means they get a -1 to all their abilities. And this guy is already stunned, but, he would be stunned as well. And their movement is limited to 2. Now, if you look at the 2 dice we rolled a 3 was the highest number. That's going to be for 3 turns. And so the only thing I can recommend is you would just use either one of these dice. We could put it on 3, and I just put it on the spell to show that the spell is going to last for 3 turns. That's the only thing I can think of. We can do it that way, and I got other dice I guess I could go grab, if I need to add more dice to this. So that helped a little. I don't think it helped a lot. Now, the merchants are also considered to be on our side, so they activate the same as we. So we go first. They are in light cover, which means if somebody tries to attack them, that would be a -1. This particular guy right here has a movement of 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4. He would be on them in a New York minute, and then he would be engaged with them, and then they wouldn't be able to escape. So what I'm going to do is It doesn't say what. Oh, yes. So these are civilians, and they use the civilian card. Well, I got that here somewhere. I know I grabbed it. What did I do with it? There is a civilian card. Oh, come on. So it looks like this. So this says water elemental. There's one that says civilian, and I grabbed it just for this mission. Where did it disappear to? All right, 1 second. I'm going to pause while I try to find this. Okay. This is what I was looking for. So they have 4 movement points, and you can see they're not real good at combat. I mean, they're a civilian. That's what it's supposed to be. So to move in a space with an ally costs 2 movement points. So that's 2, and then 3, 4. So I'll face him this way, right? We'll use the conventional rules of the game to face him like that. And so he's hiding behind the bush. And then this would be 1, and then this would be 2, 3, and then 4, like that. And then we would face him like so. So to move through the horse, or any ally, it costs an extra movement point. So that's how that would go. And yeah, we have exactly enough points to get behind the bushes, and so they're hiding. That brings the end of our turn. So now it would be their turn. And remember, unless they're engaged, they're going to go for the merchants. Now, the part that's a little tricky is what if they can't get to the merchants? Do they still... so let's see here. Characters handled by the AI who are not engaged will at all times choose the merchant as the target of their attack and moves unless they have no chance of reaching them during that turn and there is a closer enemy. That's such a loaded thing to say. But that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and do that. And let's see about taking their turns. I'm going to grab the... remember, there's 3 cards of AI that we need to grab. So the AI player has 3. Now, which one goes first? Now, that is an excellent question, and the rules do address that. I just don't remember who goes first. I think it's in initiative order, but there is no initiative on this. It's considered... he's called the Dark Player. I keep calling him the Overlord or the Dark Lord. Let's see, card activation, placement of activating order, page 61. I am not going to pause because I want to show how quickly this rulebook works. There we go, activating order, boom. During the turn, in order in which the creatures must first be activated, spellcasters and wizards are first. Creatures that have range attacks are second, then leaders, and then the rest of the creatures. And if you got like multiple creatures that are tied, then whoever has the highest VP on them and will go first. And then the highest agility is the next tiebreaker. So that makes sense. So let's do that. So in this case, the archers are going to go first. And we got this dude here. He is a shooter, of course, with a short bow. He has 18 range. So could he get in a way where he can hit them? The horse actually is going to count as, it's going to actually block or at least be light cover for them, being behind there. And then this is considered heavy cover, being behind that. Even if you're attacking at an angle, being behind this heavy cover still counts. So that's considered heavy cover, but that doesn't change whether or not they can hit him. So this guy has a movement of 5 and a range of 18. So if we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to a hit. So that works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now he's 5 away from hitting there. And you can see here, his range is 18. He does not have the Watchman ability. He does have ambush. He gets +1 to his initiative rolls. We don't have to worry about that. Dirty fighter. If you get doubles, we don't have to worry unless he gets doubles. And the darkness would have affected them. Okay, so they have the same rules we do. So they're going to try to roll their dice to see if they hit us. Now, he moved 5 spaces, so he's going to get a -2 to his roll. And then we said he was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. So he's going to get another -1 to his roll. So that's -3. And we're going to pull out the shooter card. Right, so he's 4 to 6 squares away. So that's another -1. That's -3. He moved more than half of his movement, so he gets -2. So that's -3. And then they're behind heavy cover, so it's -2 more. So he gets a -5 to his roll. And then he's going to get a +3 because of this. So he's going to get an overall of a -2. And remember, he needs to get a 10. And so he's nowhere close to doing it. So he misses, basically. He took a shot and he missed. Now we got this other guy who's stunned. So at the start of his turn, he has to roll to remove stun. And I don't remember what the rule values are, but that is also in the rule books. Let's see here, stunned. Roll 1d6. On a 4 or better, the condition is removed. Now the problem is he's got a spell that's causing the stun, so I don't think that matters. So he gets a -1 to everything, which means his armor, mana, and health are not affected, but everything else is. Now he's got a bigger problem. Can he go 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, he can do the same thing, but he can only move 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, because everything's reduced by 1 because of him being stunned. And of course that fell out. And so now that he's stunned, he's going to try to do, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. So it's the same number, it's the same kind of roll, but with him being stunned, he gets a -1. I don't even think it's possible. I could have rolled 2 6s. Well, that would have been a double crit, and so then other stuff would have happened. So again, they were able to shoot, so they tried. They just failed. Now we're going to go to who has the highest agility on everybody else that's left. The Warhounds have a 4, the Bandits have a 3, and then the Assassin has a 5 or a 4, and I think that's depending on whether he has armor. And he does have armor, so I'm going to assume it's a 4. So Warhounds or the other guy's going to go first. So we're going to let the Assassin go first because he's the higher rank among them. So he uses the melee rules. So even though he has all these skills and abilities, we just use the melee fighter. So you can see his target priority, which is enemy easiest to hit. And then there's some tiebreakers there. He will always push. And then creatures with level 1, or creatures with a lower level which are not engaged, will prioritize as a target of their attacks. These creatures, okay, yeah, that's fine. So the question becomes, he can move 6 spaces, but remember he's stunned. 6 spaces for him is going to get him closer to them, but it doesn't do anything. So he's going to turn around and go backwards. So he will turn around and come to us. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now he's engaged with us. The wedding date is not determined yet. And then it's like, okay, well, which of the two of us is he going to attack? They're both casters. So they both have an armor of 3. So in both cases, there's nothing. So then which one does he choose? Let's see. He's going to be the one that dealt it most damage during the last turn. So that would be the wizard, because the wizard cast a spell on him. Didn't do any damage, but impacted him. And you can see here, easiest to hit and lowest armor, neither of those matter. So easiest to hit would be the combat ability, actually. The wizard has a combat ability of 2, whereas the other one has a combat ability of 3, so the wizard is easier to hit because it won't roll as well. All right, so we're going to roll, and they're going to roll. Remember, there is a possibility we could parry this thing. We are face-to-face, cheek-to-cheek, so nothing's changing there. We're getting a +2. He's getting a +5. So he has a huge advantage on us. And then we're going to have to check his skills real quick. And right here, on its first activation, it will have 1 extra action to throw its 2 daggers at the nearest enemy. So we got to do that. The nearest enemy, again, would have been this wizard. So we got to do a throw. And remember, he was 5 paces away. So that throw is going to, it's just like shooting, but it'll be 5 paces away. And you can see here, he gets a -1. I'm sorry, the range is only 4. See the dagger there? The range is only 4, so he was too far away. So he couldn't throw his daggers. However, the lion was in range, so he could have thrown the daggers at the lion. So he'll throw at the lion. Range is 4, -1 to target's armor. If he attacks from behind, which is not the case here. And he gets some, yeah. So we'll do the daggers real quick. Everything else, initiative roll, melee range, lethal blow, critical hits while rolling, reduce armor by 1. But it won't add an extra die. Poisonous, if he causes the loss of at least 1 health, roll 1d6. So we're going to have to do some stuff there. And then he's elite. He may reroll melee hitting rolls with a result of 1. Unless it's a critical failure. Expert thrower. He needs at least a 4 to throw. He does. He could reroll rolls of 1 for that as well. But there's a lot of stuff to keep track of. Shooting or throwing reduces the armor by 1. Okay. All right, so we got to do the throw, which is just a fancy shooting. It's another form of shooting. So again, he's throwing 4 spaces away, so he gets a -1, but he didn't move before he threw, so no other minuses, and that's it. There's no cover. The agility of the lion is a 5, and his agility is it's a 5/4. So now I gotta get to the bottom of when is it a 5 and when is it a 4. So let me look that up. Okay, a couple of things. The assassin has leather armor. And if you look at in the back of the rule book, it's got a nice little summary of what all the equipment does. Leather armor gives a +1 to your armor and a -1 to your agility. So that's the reason why it has a slash and says 5/4. So this guy actually only has 4 agility, not 5. So the lion does have more agility than him, which is going to give him a penalty to his throw. That was the whole thing we were trying to figure out. So, and that's why he also has a 3/4. His natural armor is 3, but with the leather armor, he has 4. And then here, without the leather armor, he has 5 agility. With it, he has 4. The other thing is right here, all these skills that you see here, those only go into effect if the Dark Lord paid an extra victory point. So, and I think that's each costs 1. So Expert Thrower, which is the one we were looking at here, that doesn't happen. So character may reroll hitting that. He isn't an expert anything. He's not elite. He's not even poisonous. So we actually have a lot less things to worry about. He does have lethal blow. That's the one thing he does have. Okay, so getting back to the shooting, he's throwing 2 daggers, and that means it's basically 2 shots he's doing. It's 4 to 6 squares away, so he's getting a -1. His agility is less than the target, which is the lion, so he's going to get another -1. So he's getting a -2 to both shots. That's really all I was trying to get at. Oh, and then when we were shooting him, we actually got a +1 for attack from the back, but I don't think that mattered. So anyways, he's getting a -2 to both of his shots. And remember, he threw those daggers before he moved. So Okay, now that we got all that squared away, the white dice will be the first attack, the black dice will be the second. Remember, he needs a 10. He gets to add 4. I'm sorry, he gets to add, 4, because he has a shooting value of 4, but he subtracts 2. So basically he's going to get to net add 2. So this is a 5 plus 2 is 7, and this is a 7 plus 2 is 9. So he missed with both of his daggers, which we were really lucky. That was very close. The fact that the lion had more agility than him, and he was wearing that leather armor, that actually made the difference. Okay, now that that's out of the way, now he has to do his attack on our wizard. And so again, this will be the wizard, that'll be him. The wizard only gets to add 2, and he is adding 5. So he's adding a lot. Oh my gosh, he rolled 2 6s. So he got a double crit, and that's bad news. That's very bad news for us. So we just took a lot of damage here, and I got to figure out what a double crit does. But this is very, 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 very bad. Do that in your best Commander Lassard voice. That's very, very, very bad. So it's the opposite of a blunder. So basically, when you roll a crit, you get to add an extra damage die. But because he's an assassin, he has this lethal blow. Critical hits reduce the target's armor by 1. However, such a critical will not add the extra damage die. Now, he got what's called a double critical, which, that's the one thing I don't remember, is what does a double critical do? And so let's look that up real quick. And of course, critical, he gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He gives us 10 pages to look up critical. And only one of those pages is going to explain what a double critical is. All right, I got to pause. Okay, double critical was easy. It just means that he can't fail to hit you. Like, there's nothing that can block him from hitting you. But he does get 2 criticals, which for the assassin, normally you would get 2 extra damage dice you get to roll. But in his case, it's -1 armor. So he's going to do -2 armor for us. And then our armor is 3. So we have an armor value of 3 here. And he gets to roll his strength dice, which is 3. He's only going to get to roll 3 dice. But our natural armor is 3 minus 2. He hits with a 1. So we don't even have to roll. He's doing 3 hits against us. So we take 3 damage. And I thought I had damage tokens that was different for us, but I don't. So 3 damage goes on the wizard. And the wizard only has 3 health. So, oh gosh, that means I have to use a point to re-roll the attack dice. I can't let him have the double critical. So I'm gonna have to use one of these points here to re-roll that die, that attack. Because 3 hits on us kills us. Nothing I can do about it. So he has 6 fortune points, so that's not a super big deal. And those 6 fortune points are now reduced to 5. So we're going to re-roll his attack. And he rolled an 11, which still gives him a crit. But that means our armor is at least now a 2 instead of a 1. So we can try that. That would be 2 hits. And that would still be 3 hits. So we're going to have to... we can't have our guy die on the first effing turn. I need to look at fortune points and how I can use fortune points to save him here. Because that's the part I don't... I mean, that's the whole point of fortune points. The fact that he rolled a 6 again, if he would have rolled anything other than a 6, then he would have only done 2 damage to us and we'd have been fine. So I gotta look. Okay, the fortune points are awesome. Thank you, designer, for designing a better game than I was starting to mumble and get upset. I do not need to make them re-roll dice. He hit me 3 times. I'm going to be killed with that. Or technically, I'm going to be knocked out. So what I can do is I can spend a fortune point that lets me roll 1 die. And if it's a 5 or a higher, then I don't get knocked out. And if I still don't get a 5 or higher, I can spend a second fortune point, which saves me. So I have to spend a second fortune point, so I will do that. So now that I spent 2 fortune points, I am not going to be knocked out. But what exactly happens? I got to look that up again. It's page 14. If he does not get the desired result, you can use a second fortune point. In that case, no roll is required. The results and damage of the attack are automatically ignored. In other words, if you spend 2 points, the effect is automatically canceled. So he has no damage on him at all. But I had to spend 2 fortune points to do that. So now he's down to 4. So, obviously you could eventually run out and then still lose your mission. Now, if the Overlord was using points, that would have given him 2 points, because we just used 2 fortune points. That gives 2 points to the Overlord. This particular mission doesn't have that. It's like a training wheels mission. So thankfully, we don't have to worry about that. So, okay, now we got these 2 guys to activate, and then we have the 2 war dogs. The assassin is definitely deadly, as you just found out. It probably doesn't help that I had my wizard just storming in like he's a frontline fighter. But this one's the trickier one. Let's do this one. I don't know what he's going to do. So his movement is 5. He clearly can't get into melee range. So then would he turn around? And the answer here is he has 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, he can. So he's going to turn around and attack our lion. So he's going to be facing that way. And it's going to be a melee attack on the lion, double engaged. So this will be an interesting one. We're going to go ahead and grab the human bandit card. This one, like we said, he has the sword, the broadsword. So that just means he's going to roll 4 dice, if he hits. So his attack ability is 3. The lion has 5. So it's actually really hard to hit the lion. But let's go for it. I don't think anything else is impacting. There are modifiers here, but there's no cover, there's no elevated position, there's no attack from the back. There's no difficult terrain. Yeah, we're good to go there. Melee is a little easier. So this is awful. He rolled a 10, and he has 3. So he has 13. We have 10. So he does hit the lion. So he's going to roll 3 dice now against the lion. And the lion's armor is a 3. And he hits twice. So the lion takes 2 damage. And the lion won't heal unless you stay at an inn. So I'm going to have to get this lion card and put it like so. So the lion has 2 damage. He has 6 health. So then we're going to do the same thing with the next guy. He's just going to turn around. Remember, he's stunned. So he has to, he can't get rid of it because that stunned is due to him being wounded. And he's also going to attack the lion. And you see that 7 plus 3 is 10, but it's actually plus 2 because he's stunned. Everything's reduced by 1. So that 7 plus 2 is 9, and then this is 6 plus 5 is 11. So there's no damage to the lion. And then the warhounds are the same way. They're going to just turn around. The one in the front here is stunned. It's going to attack our hobbit friend. And we got to look at the warhounds quick. He's adding, the warhound would add 4, but because he's stunned, he's only adding 3, so that's a 5 plus 3 is 8. And then the hobbit, that's a 4 plus 3 is 7. So he does hit the hobbit, unfortunately. We do have small I'm just checking. Anybody trying to shoot him gets a -1. Yeah, that's it. So we are taking a hit, and the Warhound will roll 3 dice. The Hobbit's armor is 3. And so there's 2 hits on the Hobbit. We take 2 damage, unless we want to spend fortune points, but I'm not going to do that. So yes, so Hobbit took 2 wounds, and he only has 3 health. So I may have to spend fortune points. I could do that now. You know what? I'm going to do that now. We're going to spend 1 fortune point. Roll the die. And then I'm just going to spend 2 fortune points. The Hobbit has 8 fortune points. So, and since it doesn't affect the Overlord at all, it's almost like cheating. So, yeah, I didn't take any damage because I have like this infinite fortune point. Now, here's the thing though. You got to go to the inn and you have to spend money to get those fortune points back. It's not like you get them back for free. Okay, next we go to the next war dog, and that's going to attack our barbarian. And sometimes it's easier to just roll and not look at the modifiers, because this is clearly a win for us. So barbarian is fine. All right, so that's the end of 1 round. And so we would come over here. This would go to 4 turns left, and the heroes get to go again, and then the enemy. And we rinse and repeat until we either run out of time or we eliminate everybody. So that's almost a 2-hour video there. I promise it'll go quicker. The training, the stopping to look things up, that's all annoying, I know. But anytime you're learning a new game, I mean, enemy action Kharkov was this bad for sure. This, to be honest, is still easier than Kharkov, and I'm going to pick on that game forever, but it is. So anyways, thank you for watching. Oh, I just realized something. And some of you might have typed it and you're screaming at the screen. This guy is stunned because of that spell. He is only allowed to move 2 spaces. And so he can't engage anybody except for the lion. So he would not have engaged the wizard. He would have engaged the lion instead. So I gotta go back and look at the dice for the first attack on the wizard, and I will update you in the next video. Because instead of attacking the wizard, he would have attacked the lion. So I'm gonna give 2 fortune points back to the wizard, but we may have a problem with our lion. I don't want our lion to die, I really don't. He's a really good animal to have. But anyways, we're gonna have to fix that, because with him being stunned, he also gets a -1 to everything. So we have to fix that as well. So thanks for watching, and as always, stay awesome.